The 6th episode of Only Murders in the Building is here, and it was a slightly different type of episode to the ones that we're used to. This one wasn't really about finding out new clues in the case, but it was more about crossing the lines through the existing hunches and a large metaphorical focus on ghosts from an individual's past and wanting to achieve dreams. With the story developing forwards, let's recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from this episode. So let's get into it. Here is Only Murders in the Building Season 3 Episode 6, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The line that closed out this episode was a particularly interesting choice considering what the entirety of the episode was focused on. The line was voiced over by Howard, and he said, "All you need to banish your ghosts is for somebody to see you and understand your dreams. It's only when you're alone that the real haunting begins." I found this interesting because we'd spent all of the episode inside of the Gooseberry Theatre hearing about the ghost of Gideon Gooseberry who died on stage when a sandbag dropped on his head, something which Howard was the most suspicious about. What I came to realize was that the ghost of Gideon was actually something that lies inside of an individual's mind and represents a dream that one wants to achieve. For example, for Howard, it represented the dream of being an actor, a dream that he never achieved and it haunted him. The part of the line, "All you need to banish your ghosts is for somebody to see you and understand your dreams," was very relevant to the fact that Katie gave him an opportunity to get on stage and perform with his stage voice. And it was to perform the monologue that Gideon gave all of those years ago in order to welcome him into the show, instead of scaring him off. But realistically, it was more symbolic of the dream that had been shattered by his mother all of those years ago, and haunted him to this day. This was something that also tied into the dream that Oliver had in ensuring that his musical hit the public, something which caused the end of his friendship and partnership with Charles and Mabel. He chose to be blindsided by the fact that Loretta could be the murderer, as it seemed as though her handwriting matched up due to the inflection on the F and the P. And it showed that he'd rather be amongst a killer and have his play go live than throw it into jeopardy again. The second part of the line, "It's only when you're on your own that the real haunting begins," is something that Oliver will now be experiencing, as he's going to be tormented by his own mind as he doesn't know what to believe. I will say one thing though, and I found it quite sad. When I searched for Gideon Gooseberry, nothing came up. I genuinely believed that it happened, so I was quite disappointed. Now let's look at the individual characters. Mabel. We've seen throughout this season that Mabel had been struggling with the fact that she was on the verge of having to move out of her apartment. Charles and Oliver had been interested in other things outside of solving the murder, and she felt as though she was on her own, almost tapping into that mindset of when she was younger, when she didn't speak with her mother and instead watched Ben on TV. The ending of the episode resulted in all of that coming to the forefront for the character, with Oliver choosing to side with Loretta, insulting Mabel because he felt as though she had never had a proper job, and Mabel finding out that there were secrets that were present amongst the three, such as Charles hitting Ben on the night that he was killed. She decided to walk away from them and work on the case on her own, because that was the only way that she felt as though she was going to get to the bottom of it in a timely manner. Oh, and she was also working with Tobbert, of course, moving his photo to the bottom of the murder board, essentially ruling him out as a suspect, something which I think will come back to get her eventually. The passion that she had for solving the murder was different from before, because she said that Ben mattered to her, something which did surprise me at first because she didn't really know him. But it's because of the connection that she had to his character on screen when she was going through a hard time with her mother as to why she cared so much about Ben, and feels that she owes it to him to find out who did it. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how she operates whilst working without Oliver and Charles, and if any of the clues that she finds out about will unravel any more dark secrets about them. Charles. Charles's arc was a very interesting one in this episode. It was very much focused on him being on his own and struggling with the fact that Joy left him. He was jealous of Tobbert being introduced into the gang and was fearful of the fact that he was just being left behind, hence why he had the fish with him, President McKinley, an actual president who was killed. And I can't help but feel that it has some kind of relevance, but there's not enough clues on that right now. The fish was the only thing that he felt as though he had in his life. I found this part to be a bit weird, as obviously Charles was with Joy for the most part of the season, yet he was getting jealous over the fact that Mabel had a love interest. It was a bit hypocritical, but hey, it is what it is. With Charles being trapped inside of the closet, again, that was very much focused on him being on his own and being fearful of the fact that nobody would come and get him, as that was the first thing that he said. With Charles quitting the musical at the end of the episode due to the way that Oliver was acting, and Mabel going her separate way to the both of them, it very much feels like the worry that Charles had of being on his own is something that is most likely going to come true now. Oliver was in denial for the most part of this episode. He didn't want to believe that it was Loretta's handwriting that wrote the effing pig message on the mirror, but it very much looked like it was. With Oliver meeting Jerry upstairs, who was living there, and pretending to be the ghost of Gideon, he revealed the violent trait that he'd witnessed about Loretta. There was an important line that was spoken by Jerry to Oliver when he said about needing to choose what mattered to him in life, and in this moment we saw Oliver's true colours come out, and he chose to look past the fact that Loretta could be a murderer, and he put his play first, the dream that he always had, showing the type of individual that he was, even insulting his two closest friends, and showing that he was just a selfish individual. I do think his mind will eventually change as time goes on, but for now, he's very much on his own with Loretta and potentially in close contact with the murderer of Ben. In terms of the suspect, Jonathan was the main suspect that was in question in this week's episode, and it was ruled out pretty quickly. It turned out that he'd been seeing the celebrity doctor as he wanted to lower his anxiety levels, as he much preferred being an understudy and not the leading man, so his nerves were getting to him. Overall review. I thought this episode was okay. I don't think it was the best one of the season. I actually think that goes to last week's episode, or episode 3. This one felt like it didn't have that much to it and was more about focusing on the internal relationships rather than finding any new suspects. The dismantling of them though will most likely act as quite a poignant moment, especially if they all go off and do their own things. The 3 main cast members have such great chemistry when on screen together, and it's always so enjoyable to watch them bounce off of one another with the lines that they deliver. So it will be a shame if we see them separate for the remainder of the season, but I'm going to guess that they will get back together at some point and that electricity will reignite. I'm still hooked on finding out who the murderer is going to be. It's looking like all fingers are pointing to Loretta, but what if that book was placed there in her apartment? She's been working with Ben's brother, so it could be his handwriting, and he may have left it there. I still feel like it could be the brother, especially considering that we've not seen him for a little while, but I guess we'll just have to find out. With only a few episodes left to go, we'll get there eventually. So, there you have it. Only Murders in the Building Season 3 Episode 6, Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos such as Endings Explained, Theories and Predictions, and Character Breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @BrainPilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Who do you think did it? I'm still leaning towards Ben's brother. Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.